So the next episode of The Next Generation is called Datalore. And this is one of my favorite episodes of the first season because it's a Data episode and everybody loves Data because he's an android and androids are awesome. So we go, the gang, they all go to Omicron Theta, which is the place where Data was born, created, whatever. And they go there, and there's sort of like a mystery about Omicron Theta because everybody died and nobody really knows why. So they go down, and Geordi's using his magic eyes, and he's like, this used to be farmland, but there's nothing alive in it. Even the microbes are gone from the soil. Everything is dead, super dead. And they go into like a cave, and there's like a slab of rock there, and Data's like, when I was a baby, I was never a baby because I'm an android, but when I woke up, I was on this slab of rock, and this is where the Starfleet officers found me, and that's why I joined Starfleet. And Tasha Yar is like, you mean right here? Right here was your birthplace. And he's like, that's right. And I vaguely remember things about this, but only just enough to be mysterious. Not enough for it to be actually useful. And Geordi's like, I used my magic eyes and I found a door in the wall of the cave. So they open the door, and inside is like a hallway. They go inside and they walk around. The whole colony was hiding underground in this cave, but it doesn't look like a cave. It looks like just normal hallways and stuff. Normal sets, not cave sets. So they go into a place that has like science-y looking things that maybe you could buy at Radio Shack in the 80s, and he's like, and Data's like, I remember this being Dr. Soong's desk. And Geordi's like, what do you mean? Dr. Noonien Soong? And he totally fanboys on him. And he thinks, because Dr. Noonien Soong is like the foremost leader of cybernetics, and he was going to build an android brain, but he failed, so he went into hiding, and people were laughing at him, but it looks like he succeeded because he's your dad. Then they like open a closet, and inside the closet is like another android that looks exactly like Data but is in pieces. And Riker's like, we don't know if this is gonna work, might as well leave it here. And Data's like, come on, no, we're gonna put him together, he's like my brother, or is it me? I don't know, we gotta put him together, this is gonna be super exciting. So they go up to the ship, and the chief engineer, who in this episode is a man with a beard, he is like trying to put him together, and Dr. Crusher is helping because, I don't know, I guess because she's a doctor and this is a person, even though it's a machine. I don't know why she's helping, who cares, she's there. And Data kind of like, psst, psst, Dr. Crusher, come here, psst, psst. And says, just press your fingers right here and don't tell anyone, but it's my on-off switch. So you're going to need to know that once you get my brother put together. And she's like, okay, but why are you keeping it a secret? He's like, because it's an off switch? Wouldn't you keep it a secret if you just had an off switch? And she's like, that makes sense. Gotcha. So later, they have him together, like, they have the new android, and Picard and the gang are talking, like, right over the android's body, because he's not awake yet, and he's like, I wonder who was made first. And he, like, wakes up, and he says, Data was made first, but they didn't think they thought he was imperfect, so they replaced him with me. And then he says, my name's Lore, nice to meet you. And he's got like this weird twitch, like this. And so he kind of seems sketchy, like right from the get-go. But nobody seems to care, and Data and Lore go like buddy, and they go to the ship. They're on the ship, but they go to the bridge, and they show Lore some stuff, and Lore says something that is like, kind of shows that he knows more about stuff than he is pretending, because he's kind of pretending to be a bit dumb, and Wesley picks up on it, and he says something, and I don't know, this is the start of Wesley being super suspicious of Data's brother, Lore, and Data gets called into the principal's office, the ready room with Captain Picard, and says, Data, I just want to say that you have a evil twin now, and I just want to make sure you're still loyal to me, even though we don't yet know that your evil twin is evil. Please let me know that you're going to be loyal. And he's like, yeah, I will, totally, no problem, don't worry about it, I'm good, I love you and Starfleet. He doesn't say I love you because it's not the Picard series, but it's implied. So then, Lore is, I don't know, doing whatever he wants around the ship because he doesn't have a job. And Data and Worf are like using the ship sensors to track him and make sure he's like on the up and up, because he's super sketchy, right? And Tasha Yar's like, you're watching everything he does? Is that like what a brother does? And Picard says, that's what a Starfleet officer does. And so they're like, he got like some kind of ointment from the drugstore, and Data's like, oh, well, I better check it out. It's probably harmless, but I'm gonna go check it out. So he goes to his quarters, and Lore is there, and he has some champagne, and he's like, let's drink to something, and he's like, sort of mentions that he worked with the colonists, and he was like hung out with the colonists, and Data's like, you were made first, weren't you? And Lore's like, yep, I don't know how you figured that out, but I was, and I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to be jealous, because I was so perfect that they wanted a less perfect android, because I was so perfect that they were jealous of me. That's why they cut me up and put me in a closet. Totally not because I was evil. Then he like drugs Data, which I don't know if that's possible, but clearly we know from a few episodes ago it's possible for Data to get drunk, so it's also possible for him to be drugged. So he drinks the champagne, falls to the floor unconscious, and the next scene, Lore starts kicking Data in the head because he is an evil twin. He does evil stuff, right? So he kicks Data in the head until like a panel pops open on his forehead. And then he goes, he puts on Data's clothes. I mean, you don't see him change because, again, PG show. Also, it would just be boring. But the next scene, he's totally wearing Data's uniform, and it's clearly Lore. To anyone who knows anything, it's Lore. So basically obvious only to Wesley. So he goes, and so Wesley's like, Wesley's the one who comes to get him, and he's like, hey, Data, what's going on? And he's like, oh, well, Lore attacked me, so I had to turn him off. And then he goes to when they go to the ship, or back to the bridge, they're always on the ship. This is a big ship show. So when they go back to the bridge, Wesley says that, he turned off Lore, no problem, and Dr. Crusher's like, what do you mean? How did he knock out Lore? And he's like, he just said he turned him off. And then Dr. Crusher is like, Data, didn't you swear me to secrecy about your off switch? And he's like, no, yeah, but I changed my mind because I can trust the bridge crew. Super sketch, right? And then Wesley starts being rude to Data because it's not Data, it's his super sketchy brother Lore. And Picard's like, shut up, Wesley! Which is like the most famous line Picard has ever said to Wesley, and to the point that it is still quoted to Will Wheaton to this day. And then he's like, then he like sends him off the bridge because he is kind of being a jerky jerk face because he's Wesley clearly could tell that Data is like not Data, but instead of like obviously fixing that problem, they just blame the kid and like send the kid away, and Doctor, you go with him. And the doctor's like, what do you mean, you're putting me off the bridge too? And Picard's like, it's not even your job to be here. Are you supposed to be in sickbay? And she's like, yeah, that's a good point you raised. So her and Wesley leave the bridge, and I forgot. Also, they found the crystalline entity, which is like a big, huge snowflake in space. And the crystalline entity is the thing that destroyed all of the colony where Data used to be born. Remember that colony where everything died? It's because of this giant snowflake. And they know this because in the colony, when they were exploring down there, they found kids' drawings of people like, running away from a giant snowflake. And they're like, oh, kids, such imagination. And now they meet this giant snowflake in space. And Data, who's really, really Lore, obviously, is like, I can talk to the snowflake. And Picard is like, you didn't say you could talk to the snowflake. And he's like, well, I'm gonna. So he talks to the snowflake, and he's like, hey, snowflake, this ship is super powerful, so I would run away if I were you. They might destroy you. And then he's like, I've got an idea. How about we like beam a tree into space and then shoot at it to like show how powerful we are. And he's like, and Picard's like, that sounds like a great idea. And I'm totally not worried that I have to lower my shields to do that. And then Dr. Crusher and Wesley are in Data's quarters because Wesley has convinced Dr. Crusher that he's right and this Data is actually his brother Lore. And they come in and they close the little panel on Data's forehead, and they're like, wake up, Data, by pressing a button, not by just shaking him. Wake up. And he's like, they're like, Data, are you okay? And he's like, I'm going to function, I'm going to stop Lore. And so they go to the cargo bay, that's where Lore is, and Lore is like talking to the snowflake by the comm panel, and he's like, hey, just so you know, I'm gonna beam a tree outside, and once the shields are down, you'll be able to eat everyone, okay? And they're like, oh my goodness. It is Data. It isn't Data at all. So Wesley and Data is there, and Wesley and Dr. Crusher, and they're like, we're gonna stop you, and he's like, and Laura's like, nope, I'm gonna kill Wesley, and they're like, and he's like, if you don't do exactly what I say, I'll just kill Wesley, and Dr. Crusher, like, gonna run out the door because he's like, you better run out the door or I will kill Wesley. And then as she's running out, she, like, he shoots her in the arm, so her arm's, like, legit on fire. And then they have a fight where they use the stunt doubles so that the two guys can, like, touch each other, even though they're played by the same actor, and Data ends up throwing Lore onto the transporter pad. Wesley beams him into space, pshoo! And they're like, whew, that's great. And because Lore is, like, not there anymore, the crystalline entity just, like, leaves. And they're like, oh, Picard comes in with Dr. Crusher, who still has, like, a sore arm because she's not going to go treat herself while her son's in jeopardy. So she's like, oh, I'm so glad my son is okay. And then Data is like, I'm fine, even though he's not supposed to be able to use contractions, but he does sometimes. Either that or they switched to the wrong android and it's been Lore ever since. Up to you to interpret that. But that is the end of the episode. Datalore. Bye!